since my dad was a pup. Our mage, him they call Fire Tamer, he tends to all our fires."
"I was afraid you'd say that,"
murmured Rosethorn, an earth dedicate of the Living Circle temples.
"Come on, you four. We're being left behind."
Sandry urged her pony forward. Triss, Briar, and Little Bear fell in beside her. Daja stayed where she was for a moment, her troubled dark eyes still on the blazes. How could anything as wonderful as fire look so menacing, she wondered. She worked with it every day. It was her friend. What if one day it turned against her, as it had against Gold Ridge's fields?
"Stay in Pijul Fakol, where you belong,"
Daja Kisubo muttered to the distant flames. Clucking to her pony, she rode to catch up with her friends. The next day, Daja entered a small local smithy loaded down with tools. She dropped everything beside the rough anvil, then realized that the staff she always carried had fallen to the ground as well. Swiftly, she grabbed it from the pile, dusting its polished wood. She rested the staff against the wall near the hearth, stopping for a moment to run her fingers over its mirror-bright, unmarked brass cap. That bit of metalwork told those who knew how to read traders' staffs that she was Trangshi, an outcast, with the worst luck in the world. She turned her back on it and surveyed the cramped and dirty smithy.
"I wish I were home,"
she thought, eyeing the forge. Home was the temple city of Winding Circle, where her master had a proper, clean, well-lit forge. This dismal place was the 12th smithy that she'd had to work in since the Duke's train began its journey. She was alone. The smith, who was also the village headman, was talking with the Duke about what was needed to help this tiny valley survive the winter. The smith's absence, at least, was a good thing. Even his apprentice was gone, visiting a sick mother. She hated working in front of strangers. She was also tired of backcountry craftsmen who told her and her teacher Frostpine that they had things soft in Winding Circle.
"As if we did no real work of our own,"
she thought, inspecting the stone forge. Here was a pleasant surprise. The smith's apprentice must have cleaned out the nest-shaped fire pit and laid kindling for a new fire. He'd left her that much less work. Looking at the kindling, she reached deep inside her to find her magic. Drawing out just a touch, she blew it into the fire pit. Flames sprang up instantly. Next, she sent her power outside through the wall to the other end of the tube through which the outdoor bellows pumped air under the fire inside. Since that summer, when Sandry had made the four friends' magics into one, they had been able to talk in thought form and to enter each other's minds if they needed to. The ability was quite useful, particularly when one of them needed something from the others.
"Triss!"
Daja mind called.
I know.
The magic under Trissana Chandler's reply felt like cool winds and heavy mist.
I had to pull the bellows out of the opening. You might want to stand away from the fire.
"Not too much at first,"
Daja told her, then backed up. The burning heap of kindling fluttered, then blazed as air from the outside was thrust in under its flames. Daja heaped fresh charcoal around the sides of the kindling. Once it had caught, she added still more.
"Now give me some real air."
The answer came in the shape of a heavier stream of wind rushing through the opening under the forge. More charcoal caught. Daja stacked fuel until she had the right kind of fire to work her iron rods with.
"Just keep it steady for now. I hope you brought something to read."
She felt Triss settle on a bench near the opening in the wall. Using one hand, the other girl picked up a book. With the other, she drew a skein of breeze from the sky into the bellows hole.
It's a history of volcanoes, hot springs, and mud pots in the mountains of Emelon. There's a lot of information in it.
"Sounds ravishing."
Letting the magical conversation go, she grabbed a handful of long, thin iron rods, carried them over to the forge fire, and put them in to heat. She felt bad for Triss, stuck behind the forge. Her red-headed friend would have liked nothing better than to ride with the Duke and their teachers, exploring the valley. Unfortunately, when Triss got cross, small winds turned to big ones. No one wanted her anywhere near the grass fires they had gone to inspect today. Unlike Triss, Daja had no interest in grass fires, and had said as much to her teacher Frostpine. She had wanted him to give her something new to work, like the ruddy copper that was mined in these parts. Instead, he'd assigned her the most humdrum task an apprentice could get.
Nails,
Daja thought tiredly. Barehanded, she drew a thin, cherry-red iron rod out of the fire.
I dream of forging swords and crowns and armor, but what does he give me? Nails.
She carried her rod over to the anvil and examined its gloryless surface. The light in the small building was poor, the outer air smoky. The forge fire itself was sinking to become a steady wash of heat over red coals, without giving much light. She would have to do something about that. Daja reached a hand toward the forge and twitched her fingers. A rope of fire rose from the coals. A second finger twitch brought the rope toward the anvil. She stopped it a foot away, then thought for a moment. Her plan was to shape it like a branch of candles, but something else nudged her, wanting to press its own image into the flame. She let it roll away from her and into the rope. It split, then split again, turning itself into a multitude of fibers. These began to weave themselves in and out of each other. When they halted, a grid of flame hung in the air, like a broadly woven square of cloth. Daja could have stuck a thumb into the gaps between the fire threads, but she wasn't sure what the result might be. The fiery cloth did cast a strong light on her work area, and wasn't that the important thing? She left it alone. Using her hammer, she resentfully tapped a groove into her iron rod. Where would she be right now, if her family hadn't drowned? Probably south in the pebbled sea, underway for their winter birth. The wind, just starting to turn chilly, would be tumbling through her braids, filling her nose with clean salt air, not this dusty, smoky stuff. Jamming the rod's pointed end into a hole in the metal lump called a nail header, she gave the iron a hard twist. The rod broke neatly where she had cut the groove into it.
And our ship wouldn't have a cargo of these,
she thought, putting the longer piece of rod aside.
We'd have, spices from Bihan and gold from Sotat. Maybe some flower perfumes from Janal.
With a hard, quick hammer blow, she put a flat head on her nail. Lifting the nail header tool at the back of the anvil, she upended it. Her finished nail dropped into a water bucket near one of her feet. Steam hissed out in a tiny plume. Sighing, Daja fished for the cool nail and tossed it into a second, empty bucket. With the ease of practice, she put the nail header on the anvil, right over the hole made for it. The remainder of the first rod went back into the fire to heat. She grabbed the next iron rod to begin the whole chore over again. Daja worked steadily, ignoring the sweat that trickled down her cheeks, back, and sides, dreaming of ships under full sail in the pebbled sea. She was big for her years, deep-chested and thick-waisted, dressed in a boy's thigh-length black tunic and black leggings. The leather apron that protected her clothes was grimy and spotted with burns. The steady glow of light from her fire-weaving played over skin as brown as mahogany, a wide, full-lipped mouth now tight with unhappiness, and large, deep-set brown eyes. The only touches of color about her were a scarlet armband and red ties at the ends of her braids.
"You are the smith?"
A female voice inquired behind her.
"I have work to be done."
Daja turned, squinting. At first, it was hard to make out the woman who stood in the wide doorway. The sun was at her back, leaving her face in shadow. The only thing clear at first glance was that she had but one leg. The other, cut off at mid-thigh, had been replaced by a sturdy length of fitted wood.
I'm not the smith.
The white of the visitor's eye glittered. She was staring at Daja's fire square. The girl sighed. People were always so nervous about the way she and her friends shaped magic.
Sorry,
Daja murmured, and flapped a hand at the square. It twisted, becoming a single rope, then snaked back into the forge. The visitor took 2 hopping steps into the building. Now Daja saw her clearly, and wished she could not. One side of the newcomer's face was the color of bronze, lit with a single heavy-lidded dark eye. The other side was a ruin of shiny brown scars.